Magandang araw mga ka-Krimnos. Andito na naman tayo sa ating next session of our discussion about intelligence and secret services. Okay, so we are now in this topic, the types of intelligence, of course, and classification of intelligence. So this is the part 3-B of the Police Intelligence and Secret Services. Alamin natin kung ano yung mga types of intelligence. Andito si tactical intelligence, yung pinag-usapan natin last time. Andito rin si strategic intelligence, order of battle intelligence, national intelligence, tsaka meron din tayong line intelligence, military intelligence, police intelligence, at meron din tayong classification of intelligence such as SIGINT. When we say SIGINT is signal intelligence, meron din tayong HUMINT or human intelligence. So yun yung mga bagay na pag-uusapan natin ngayon. So bear with me, kindly listen throughout our presentation for today's topic. So let's start the ball rolling. Now we will be discussing about the types of intelligence. Here is the first one. This concerns foreign technical developments which have a practical military application and the physical characteristics, performance, capabilities, and limitations of material and installation used by and for foreign. Answer is technical intelligence. Talking about technical intelligence, when we say technical intelligence, it talks about the current development of technologies. It is for a fact knowing the current development of technologies of foreign countries, such as technical developments as to the warfare technologies, rifles, weapons. So meaning to say, it is obtaining of information pursuant to the development of the technologies of a foreign nation, such as like for example in Russia, China, North Korea, and in Japan. What are the technical developments that they are developing nowadays? So therefore, basically, the technical intelligence is more on gathering data pertaining to the characteristics and the capabilities of the material installation of the foreign nation. Because as such, whenever we will be behind as to the information and data pertaining to the technical developments as to the characteristics, capabilities, the material installations of the foreign country, we will be somehow be in danger or even in vulnerabilities since we cannot rival their technical developments. So with the help of that intelligence or with the help of those details, of course, we will be able somehow to anticipate of what would be also the technical developments that should be developed by our government. Next, what intelligence that refers to an end product resulting from the collection, evaluation, and interpretation of gathered data pertaining to criminal activities in affecting their arrest and to obtain an evidence. Answer would be police intelligence. Be reminded, the police intelligence, intelligence is more concerned with gathering data pertaining to criminal activities. Meaning to say, it is more on violation of law, more on engagement of criminal activities by the organized crime or by such a certain individual for the sole purpose of effecting the arrest of individual and obtain an evidence. So in the perspective of police intelligence, it is a collision and integration of all data about a criminal individual or about the criminal activities of a criminal individual which soon be subjected to arrest and or apprehension for the purpose as well of obtaining of evidence. So unlike with the other intelligence, they are more only of gathering data, not to enforce apprehension and or the arrest, because the arrest and or the apprehension is the primary role or the primary function of the police officer. So basically, the very purpose of the police intelligence, it is more on data pertaining to criminal activities and for the purpose as well of obtaining evidence in effecting their arrest. Next type of intelligence, that knowledge pertaining to the capabilities and probable courses of action for foreign nations. It refers to what intelligence? The answer is strategic intelligence. What is our keywords or key terms here? Pertaining to the capabilities and probable courses of action. Meaning to say that basically talks about strategic intelligence. Capabilities, ibig sabihin ng capabilities, what are the strengths? The enemy is capable of what? Those are the questions that should be answered in the strategic intelligence. So, in this very intelligence, it tries to preempt and or tries to gather data pertaining to the capabilities of the foreign nation in terms of the troops, in terms of the weapons, in terms of the resources that they have possessed, and of course the probable courses of action. Ibig sabihin ng probable courses of action, it is in a form of a design, it is a form of a technique na could be used by the foreign nations in order to wage war or even in order to wage a battle against other country or against the subversive organization. So that is what we mean for the strategic intelligence. So ibig sabihin ng strategic intelligence, it is more on accumulation of data pertaining to the probable courses of action and the capabilities of foreign nations. Okay, our next question. It is an intelligence data that are not of an immediate value. It is usually descriptive in nature, accumulation of physical descriptions of personalities, modus operandi, and etc. What do you think is the answer? Not of an immediate value. The answer would be strategic intelligence. Okay. Kanina, yung definition ng strategic intelligence talks about the capabilities and the probable courses of action for foreign nation. But now, we are talking about the usage of the strategic intelligence. So meaning to say ng strategic intelligence, since it talks about strategic, it requires long range of time or enough time in order to initiate the action and or the operation with the aid of the intelligence being gathered under the concept of strategic. Sabi dito, data that are not of an immediate value. Pwedeng hindi magagamit sa kasalukuyan, but it could be used in the near future. So it is usually descriptive in nature, accumulation of physical description of personalities, and modus operandi, and etc. So meaning to say, it really requires number of time, it requires enough time for you able to execute the plan or for you able to execute the operation, since the type of intelligence you have is strategic, not of an immediate value, will not be used right away, but it will be used in the near future. Next, it refers to what intelligence that is primarily long-range in nature with little practical immediate operation value. Answer? Okay. The answer is strategic intelligence. Sabi kanina, not of an immediate value. Ano naman kabaliktaran not of immediate value? In short, primarily long-range in nature. Ibig sabihin, it will not be used immediately, but it could be used in the near future. Long range in nature. Kasi pinag-usapan ito strategic. Ibig sabihin, for you to have the intelligence about strategy or strategic intelligence, you need to gather data pertaining to the nature of your target, the background of your target for a long time requirement. Kasi, like for example, you are conducting surveillance on a particular day. Because conducting surveillance on one day alone does not really gives enough and ample data or information pertaining to your subject. It requires number of time, or it requires enough time for you able to accumulate all the data, the nature of your target, and the background of your target. So that is why it is primarily long range in nature. And the intelligence that you might possess, which is the strategic intelligence, it requires proper planning. And of course, it requires enough time in order to be prepared for the actual operation. So that is strategic intelligence. Okay, before we'll proceed with the next remaining types of intelligence, let us have first a recap muna about the definition of the strategic intelligence. Kasi yung definition ng strategic intelligence natin has three different meaning. The first definition of the strategic intelligence that we have a while ago is it concerned more on probable courses of action of a foreign nation, and the second one is it concerns with not of an immediate value in terms of knowing the nature, the characteristics of the enemy, and the third one is long range in nature. So ibig sabihin, if either of the three will be asked, therefore your answer must be all about strategic intelligence. So, first, yun yung probable courses of action. The second one, not of an immediate in nature, and long range in nature. So, shall we? Let's proceed to the next one. Our next intelligence is all about combat intelligence. Anong sabi ng combat intelligence? It determines the best use of his available firepower and maneuver forces. Meaning to say, yung combat intelligence, it is a type of intelligence wherein it stated or stipulated all the available firepower and maneuver forces of your own troops or of your own department. But on the other hand, the combat intelligence, it is a type of intelligence wherein it accumulates, it stipulates all the information and the data that had been gathered from the enemy forces or the subversive organization or the rival organization of their available firepower and maneuver forces. Because knowing for a fact about the available firepower and maneuver forces of your enemy troops, that is the time for you able to prepare your own troops by making your firepower and maneuver forces very prepared well, and of course for you able to provide with what are available firepower and what should be the techniques, what should be the style, what should be the strategy of your maneuver forces. So basically, the combat intelligence does not only possess the intelligence about the available firepower and maneuver forces of your own troops, but also an intelligence that you've possessed about the available firepower and maneuver forces of your enemy in order for you to make a comparison, because there's no way for you to embark a battle and or war without even knowing the available firepower and maneuver forces of your enemy. Because without knowing the available firepower and maneuver forces of your enemy, according to Sun Tzu, you are a fool going to the battle and who will meet defeat. Diba? So, unlike on the other hand, you know already the available firepower and the maneuver forces of your enemy, so therefore, you can prepare well your troops. You can even go more than of what are the available firepower you have and the maneuver forces you have than your enemy. So that is all about the combat intelligence. Next, technical intelligence, we've gone through with that. And the next one is order of the battle intelligence. Sabi dito sa order of the battle intelligence, manner in which military forces are organized and disposed. Talking about order of the battle intelligence, The order of battle intelligence is very crucial at the same time critical on a certain organization. Kasi yung order of the battle intelligence, it possess or it includes the manner, the design, and or the style of the battle that you have whenever you will embark in the battle or whenever you will embark in the war. Because unang-una, in the order of the battle intelligence, you should not go for a battle without knowing first the order of the battle of your enemy. As much as possible kung makuha nyo yung order of the battle of the enemy. So anong nakapaloob dito sa order of the battle intelligence? Yung order of the battle intelligence, like for example, Oplan Exodus. If you happen to remember the SAF 44, they have the so-called Oplan Exodus. It states about the order of the battle intelligence of the enemy, okay, and of course the order of the battle intelligence of them has been possessed by the enemy. How come the enemy already knew their whereabouts or their rendezvous or the place where they are going to attack the enemy? That is for the matter of position of the order of the battle intelligence. Ano ba talagang ibig sabihin ng order of the battle intelligence? Like for example, your plan is to go to war, to wage war against the other nation, or to wage war against the other troops. So therefore, before you will go there, you must have this what we call order of the battle intelligence. The order of the battle intelligence is an order of the battle of the enemy. You are going to study the design and or the manner of enemy's battle or war. What should be their strategy, what should be their techniques, what are their available firepower, and of course their maneuver forces. Okay? By knowing that, you will be able also to launch or even to have a surprise attack since you already knew their design. Okay? So like for example, your own troops or your own company, you are planning to embark such war or such battle, and you have this order of the battle intelligence of yours on what should be the design of your battle or how are you going to attack your enemy. So therefore, whenever that order of the battle has been possessed by the enemy and then become order of the battle intelligence of the enemy as they possess it from you, you are in the disadvantaged position because they already possess your order of the battle. In short, yung order of the battle intelligence talks about the manner in which military forces are organized and disposed. Diba? So, for you able to launch a surprise attack, since you already knew the order of the battle of your enemy, so mag-a-ambush kayo doon sa area na kung saan sila dadaan for them to wage war against you. So, by that, you'll be able to go to your enemy. So our next question, it refers to evaluated and interpreted information concerning an actual or possible enemy or the operations including weather and terrain, together with the conclusions drawn from there. The answer is military intelligence. So basically, military intelligence includes the weather and the terrain, which also concern an actual or possible enemy or the operations. So wherein in the weather and terrain, so mostly the terrain there is very important in terms of its structure, in terms its nature, whether it is bushy, whether it is mountainous or even full of body of waters, and the actual or possible enemy as well, and that includes in the military intelligence function. Next, what intelligence includes the strategic and combat intelligence in the preparation of military policies, plans, and programs? Answer, that is military intelligence still. Unang-una, mention dito strategic at saka combat. These are the primary thing and or intelligence that are required under the military intelligence. because they need strategic intelligence in order to supplement their data information in order for them to conduct an operation. The next is the combat intelligence. Sabi dito sa combat intelligence, they need really to determine the available firepower and the maneuver forces that they could ever have. And also, it is being mentioned here, the preparation of military policies, plans, and programs. Wala namang ibang mag-accumulate. It's the military policies, of course, military intelligence, the plans and the programs. Okay, question. Which of the following intelligence of an immediate nature and necessary for more effective police planning and operation? So, dalawa ang dapat i-consider nyo dito. Immediate nature at saka more effective police planning and operation. It pertains to police planning and operation, and of course, its nature is immediate. Is it A, tactical? Is it B, combat? Is it C, military? Is it D, line? Of course, the tactical, the combat, this could fall under the military intelligence. And more so ever, it could also be used by the police organization. Most of the time, it could be on the SAF, it could be on the SWAT, the tactical at saka combat intelligence. But most of the time, since it refers here the effective police planning and operation, and it requires immediate nature, the answer would be line intelligence. Because the line intelligence is one of the functional unit of the PNP or the Philippine National Police Organization, which it requires actual operation in the field. So this is more on investigation. It could be on the criminal investigation, it could be on the traffic investigation, it could be in human trafficking investigation, it could be on the perspective of the BPA or beat patrol, or it could be in the patrolling process. So yun yung line intelligence. Okay. So now let's proceed on the perspective of the line intelligence. Sabi dito, an intelligence required by the commander provide for planning and conduct tactical and administrative operation in counterinsurgency. So tactical here talks about the tactics, what should be the course of action to be done in terms of counterinsurgency, and administrative operation. Pag sinabing administrative operation, it must underwent or undergone pre-planning and of course pre-operation in order really to carry out the objective of the department to achieve its common goal. So the following are the information to be determined under the line intelligence, which is acronymed PWET: people, weather, enemy, and terrain. So the people there, of course, they need to study the living condition of the people, source of income, the education of the people, government, livelihood projects, extent of enemy influence to the people. Weather, visibility, cloudy, temperature, precipitation or rain, and of course the wind. Direction. Enemy, the location of the enemy, the strength of the enemy, the disposition, tactical capability, and enemy vulnerability. So terrain, relief and drainage system, vegetation, surface, material, man-made features. Line intelligence, ibig sabihin immediate in nature. So kinakailangan magamit kaagad just because immediate yung nature ng line intelligence. So hindi pwede yung line intelligence na nalaman ngayon, the problem has been determined now, and the plan will be, it must be solved, or it must be addressed later on or in the near future. It must be addressed right away accordingly. Like for example, there is a riot happened this time, which is the 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and therefore for the next day around, probably tomorrow, it must be addressed accordingly to put a police visibility in order to avoid such riot. So that is immediate in nature. What would be the action to be done? What would be the operation of the administrative in order to address such issue? So basically that talks about the line intelligence. My next type of intelligence, it covers the activity denoted and destroying the effectiveness of hostile foreign activities to the protection of information against espionage, subversion, and sabotage. Protection of information against espionage, subversion, and sabotage. What do you think is the answer? Answer is counterintelligence. Sabi dito, covers the activity denoted and destroying the effectiveness of hostile foreign activities. Like for example, sabi dito, protection of information against espionage, meaning to say, this is falls under the passive measure. It tries to protect the information against spy or against espionage activity in order that the enemy or the hostile foreign nation wouldn't able to access the information. And of course, subversion in terms of personnel, and also to prevent sabotage in terms of materials and installations such as military camp, police station, and the like. So that is counterintelligence. Be reminded, pag sinabing counterintelligence, that it tries to block, preempt, and impede enemies' effort. Next question. The objective of which is to safeguard information against espionage, material and installation against sabotage, and personnel against subversive action. It refers to what intelligence? Of course, kanina, I already mentioned that. The answer is, okay, counterintelligence. So, counterintelligence, known also as negative intelligence, meaning to say, it tries to block, impede, or even it tries to be involved in the actual operation of espionage activity, actual operation of subversion activity, and sabotage activity. Kasi counter yung pinag-uusapan dito. Okay. Okay, now we are down to principal areas of interest in intelligence. So basically, it talks about the nature of the following: the military, in general, diplomatic, and political perspective. First, we have the military as a principal area of interest in intelligence. So it tries to gather data in terms of offensive and defensive tactics, the war plans, strategic concepts, and tactical principles, organizations, installations, industrial needs, armed forces, command structure, command personnel, material, tactics, and morale. With this particular nature or principal area of interest in intelligence, it needs really be covered well. It must be stored well. That needs not be accessed by the subversive organization or the hostile country. But in some other way, of course, if you happen to prepare or preparing your troops for a possible future war, you need really to process this following data and or nature in terms of the military perspective of your enemy. The second one, general. It talks about topographic, hydrographic characteristics, and the historical backgrounds. As the principal areas of interest in intelligence, like for example in Scarborough Shoal or Spratly Islands, Chinese claimed that it is owned by them. These are owned by them, these particular islands. But since we already have those data information, the intelligence of those particular islands have been possessed by the Philippine government in terms of topographic and hydrographic characteristics. Pag sinabing topographic, it talks about the land navigation or the map of the land. Pag sinabing hydrographic characteristics, it talks about, for example, the Philippines is archipelagic type of country because it composed of different body of waters. So hydrographic characteristics, historical backgrounds of a particular country or the nation in general. So with that particular intelligence, you would be able to study the nature of the particular country in general as a topographic, hydrographic, and historical background. Third one, the diplomatic. The foreign policies, alliances, diplomatic establishment, foreign service personnel, technique of conducting foreign relations. Like for example, foreign policies. What would the Philippines has in terms of foreign policies? Of course, we have the foreign policies here that the foreigner should conform to. And also the other country has also a foreign policies that we as the Filipinos, whenever we will be there, we should conform to their foreign policies. Okay? Alliances, we have this what we call extradition treaty. Okay? So in extradition treaty, therefore, we are bound to that, meaning to say the other country could have their operation in our country, such as the Philippines and the US. The Philippines and the US would have always this what we call joint forces or joint operation forces in terms of armed forces of the Philippines and the armed forces of the United States. So therefore, with these particular areas or kanang area of interest or in intelligence, it should be covered well, it should be protected well. And the other one is diplomatic establishment. Okay, diplomatic establishment, like for example, the embassy, the Philippine embassy or the US embassy in the Philippines. What are the policy there? What are the diplomatic policies that we have with the other countries? So basically, those are the interests of intelligence that whenever be possessed by the subversive or the hostile nation or country, which is against us, that is very crucial. Critical rather. The fourth one is political. So it tries to study or even have a data pertaining to ideology, traditions, institutions, personalities, and area of frictions. Like for example, ideology. What are the ideology of those party lists? Diba? So why this particular party list would always resort to a rally? Or even why this particular party list would resort to violation? Okay? The next one is tradition. What is the tradition of this particular community or society? Why they are going through with these particular things? So those are the things that needs to be focused on. The institution, the personalities and area of friction. So in the particular area of frictions, basically the PNP organization and the AFP for that matter would have to have an information or intelligence pertaining to the area of frictions, because from time to time that might be an area wherein criminal would always occur. Okay, next is categories of intelligence. First, we have the national intelligence. Talking about the national intelligence, these are the accumulated and integrated intelligence and or data coming from different aspects of government agencies. It is a total product of intelligence developed by all governmental agencies that cover the broad aspects of national security and the national policy, such as government agencies of the PNP or the Philippine National Police, the NBI or the National Bureau of Investigation, the PDEA or the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. We have also the NICA, the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency. What else? And so on and so forth. Meaning to say, pag sinabing national intelligence, these are those intelligence that could be taken from the PNP, could be taken from the NBI, could be taken from NICA, from PDEA, ATC, or whatsoever national government that we have here that pertains to national security. So most of the time, national security is one of the primary concern of the EFP or the Armed Forces of the Philippines. This particular intelligence must always be possessed by them and should always be given to the President of the Philippines and other concerned agencies for that matter for the integration and collision of all intelligence that are being gathered. And of course, that is in connection with NICA together with the NIB or the National Intelligence Bureau. And the second one is the national policy. So it also talks about the national intelligence since the policy of the state here is at stake. So whenever be penetrated or even possessed by the subversive organization, it might be used, hacked or cracked in order to reform, or I mean in order to deform the national policy wherein the national security is at stake. Second one, department intelligence or departmental intelligence. It is an intelligence used by the various departments for the advancement of each departments and or agencies. Like for example, the PDEA. Of course, PDEA concerned more on narcotics or legal drugs. So therefore, the type of intelligence they have is more about on narcotics and or illegal drugs, local and in abroad. So that could be used or aid them whenever they will have an operation for the sole purpose of uh, their function. And also in the PNP. So PNP have different aspects or have different concerns in terms of enforcing their function or the law, diba? So therefore, whatever the intelligence that they have might be an intelligence pertaining to the carnapping, an intelligence pertaining to the trafficking, human trafficking or human smuggling, pertaining to criminal activities. So those are the type of intelligence that could be of usage or useful on their department as departmental intelligence. Next, we have military intelligence. Yung military intelligence, as we have discussed a while ago, it used in the preparation of military policies, plans, and programs. So therefore, as much as possible, this type of intelligence must not be divulged publicly, though some of which or some of the rules and the regulations and the general orders will be publicized. But most of the time, as much as possible, the very important intelligence there should not be exposed. Like for example, they've possessed another list of those activists or another list of those members of the aggressive and hostile enemy or hostile organization is with them, so they are planning to attack or they are planning to have an operation to capture or to apprehend them or to corner them. So most of the time it was a call of duty as to making of policies to adjust also their plans and to enforce their programs of what should be adapted based on the changes of the environment. And also we have economic. It concerns about financial, commercial, industrial, mining, agriculture. So most of the time, for example, in the mining, as much as possible, of course, the details or the intelligence pertaining to mining, it must be one of the principal areas of intelligence since it needs to be focused with in agriculture as well, since this requires a broad aspect of money and resources in terms of agricultural crops. And industrial as well, this might be one of the target in terms of sabotage or even might be a area for growing criminal activities. The commercial as well, or the mercantile law must be applied here, or the commercial policies should be adapted here for the sole purpose of protecting the commercial and the financial as well, since we have the initiative here in the Philippines based on the RA 9160, and that is we have the AMLA or the Anti-Money Laundering Council or the AMLA. So most of the time it needs to be focused with in terms of protecting the information for this economic aspect. Communications and transportations, telephones, telegraphs, wireless, railways, shipping, automobiles and trucks, highways, aviation. So as much as possible, the government must possess all the intelligence of these following data or following concern areas, since these are the primary routes of communication and or transportation that might be sabotaged or might be subject for sabotage by the enemy forces. And the next one is we have the social, the nationality structure, the classes and the caste, historical factors, census, personal aspects, characteristics. So as much as possible, it is also part of the Kining area or the principal area of interest in intelligence. Intelligence organizations, methods, and personnel of competing intelligence systems. So in intelligence organization, as much as possible, their government must have an intelligence pertaining to this organization. Like for example, there are 100 intelligence organization or agencies in the Philippines. Most of the time, rival tong mga agency to. At tsaka may pagkakataong talaga na they meet in a halfway or engage in a fight or rival discrimination in terms of their services. So they are one also of the principal area of interest in intelligence, knowing for a fact that this organization produces intelligence officers who will gather data, might be on the side of friendly force or enemy force against the government. Okay, we are down here in classification of counterintelligence. Let's proceed to the next slide. Counterintelligence operation. First, we have counter-human intelligence, or also known as HUMINT. In this particular intelligence, it is using of human as a source of information, or putting a human in the field in order to counter the operation of the enemy, wherein it seeks to overcome enemy attempts to use human sources to collect information or to conduct sabotage and subversion, which include counterintelligence special operations, liaison, counter-security, and counterintelligence screening. First, counterintelligence special operations. It might be in the form of undercover operation. It might be in the form of elicitation. While in the liaison, it is more on involvement of other agencies and or department for the sole purpose of training and or liaison program, which has a coordination and or connection with the other agency. And the third is counter security. Pag sinabing counter security is when the enemy tries to gather data or conduct an investigation pertaining to your organization, and the counter security measure will be done or conducted. And counterintelligence screening. In the counterintelligence screening, before you will hire an agent or the prospect agent, they will undergo counterintelligence screening to determine their loyalty and their credibility, endurance in terms of their job description. So that is counter-human intelligence, using of human as a source of information, or using of human in order to block the enemy's effort or to overcome the enemy attempts to use human sources. Okay, next is counter-imagery intelligence or IMINT. This type of intelligence, it tries to counter the enemy's effort in terms of gathering data with the use of the technology or with the use of the technical intelligence. Pag sinabing technical intelligence or technology is with the aid or with the use of the global positioning system or the GPS. Of course, that is with the aid of the satellite, or even with the use of different systems such as radar or surveillance radar, photothermal, infrared systems. So in the counter-imagery intelligence includes action taken to determine enemy SIGINT or signal intelligence and related enemy weaknesses, capabilities, and activities. Pag sinabing signal intelligence pertaining to the enemy is that it is being used by the enemy in order to tap the communication, in order to know the location of your organization. So the counter-imagery intelligence is there in order to counter the action of the enemy. So these actions include surveillance radar. So we have the radar in order to detect some sounds or those unfamiliar or unidentified sounds that might enter the area of coverage of the radar. And next is the photothermal and infrared system. In the photothermal and infrared system, the photothermal, it depicts a picture of a particular area. It might also include the image or the picture of the individual, the place and or the buildings with the aid of the GPS and or the satellite. And infrared systems. While in the infrared systems, it detects the moving or the motion picture of an animals and or the human being, so by means of the use of the infrared system. So infrared system as well could be aid through the satellite with the use of the computers attached, connected with the computers in order to conduct surveillance on your respective organization. So in order to combat that or in order to counter that, counter-imagery intelligence must be initiated. Next, we have the counter-signal intelligence or the SIGINT. So the counter-signal intelligence, it is an intelligence which uses to counter the enemy's access or enemy's surveillance with the use of SIGINT or with the use of the signal system to spy against your area. So it determines enemy SIGINT and related enemy weaknesses, capabilities, and activities. So assess friendly operations to identify patterns, profiles, and develop, recommend, and analyze countermeasures. So yun yung purpose ng counter signal intelligence. So dito naman nagtatapos ang ating discussion for today's topic. Okay, so this is the end of part 3 -B of the Police Intelligence and Secret Services, all about the types of intelligence and the classification of intelligence. So sana naman ay meron kayong natutunan kahit papano, o di kaya for those first view of such topic, ay kung meron kayong mga katanungan, just type below and I will be answering that whenever I am available, and if I will be able to visit this presentation again. And next time or next presentation to be posted is still all about intelligence and its perspective, but we will focus more on the evaluation guide, and of course interpretation with it, and the intelligence cycle. So napaka-importante ang dalawang topic na ito, the evaluation guide, of course, with the interpretation, at saka yung intelligence cycle. Bakit kamo? Kasi dito natin malalaman kung papaano ini-evaluate ng decision maker yung information that being gathered, at saka naman ito ay magagamit ng isang intelligence officer. So dito natin malalaman kung gaano ka-accurate yung information, saang source nanggagaling yung mga information. At saka sa intelligence cycle naman, yung pinagsasabi ko last presentation, yung part 3-A, ay dito natin malalaman kung ano ba talaga ang mga bagay na nakalagay sa every step of the cycle of the intelligence. So this is the part 3-C topic. For next topic soon. Hopefully that you will be able to watch this, because this is very important. So thank you, have a great day, and God bless you all.